What is up, everybody, and welcome back. I'm back. First things first, I want to apologize. I was supposed to make a video while I was on vacation visiting family. Worked on a... I was there for 2.5 weeks, and I touched 4 vehicles. So, worked on my first truck, which I'll put a photo in here so you can see what it looks like. I mean, you're not gonna be surprised when you see it. It had been sitting for 3 years. My brother 3 years ago put a new transmission in it and then never drove it. We were thinking it had a computer issue, and that's why it was shifting funny. It's still shifting a little funny, but it was good enough for me to drive around, so I didn't even bother messing with it. And then we pulled the engine and transmission out of my brother's 73 F100 and actually started tearing into that transmission with the intent to rebuild it. And then after that, my mom's truck broke down. It's a little 2001 sport track. That's a Explorer-based pickup. And that one was just a tune-up. I don't know if that actually solved the problem, but it ran and drove after that, no issues. So called that a win. And then the last thing that we did, me and my brother together worked on my dad's 88 F250. Pulled the 460 out of that and did a bunch of gaskets because that thing has leaked oil for years. So far it's not leaking. He hasn't called me and told me that it's leaking again, so I'm gonna take that as a win. Now, reason why you're not going to see a video on any of that is, well, we got distracted towards the end, didn't really record everything that we should have recorded, and so I have a bunch of footage from it, but nothing that is complete. So I apologize, not going to see that video. Maybe if I do a video of nothing but like bloopers and outtakes and whatnot, then you'll see that. Anyway. So now we're back at the home shop or home garage. Project Ivy's still sitting right there. I did pick up a couple things for that. But that's not the priority right now. Priority is get the Bronco back on the road. And in order for me to do that, I have to finish tearing apart this 408 that I blew up. If you remember that video, melted a couple pistons. And we're gonna steal some parts off of this, like the cam, the lifters, probably the head studs, and the intake, and we're going to be putting it on, I can't tell if you can see, but on this motor, which I picked up right before I left. So I got to, as soon as I get that one, I'm spinning around a lot, I'm sorry. As soon as I get this one torn down, I'm gonna set this one off to the side, and then we're gonna throw that one on a stand and get it torn down. So that is where we're at, and we are going to get as far as I can, and then I'm gonna have to order a bunch of gaskets and such in order to put this thing back together. So with that, ain't nothing to it but to do it, so let's get to it. All right, so water pump's off, got the head studs out of the way. Now I'm pulling the lifters. So 94 and up 351 Windsors had hydraulic roller lifters with the dog bone setup instead of the flat tappet. So you have what's called, some people call it a spider, but it's just a dog bone retainer. Goes like that, holds them down. And these dog bones, because they look like a dog bone, prevent the lifter from spinning during operation. So it's one reason why I like the 94 and up blocks, because they came factory with this. I prefer the dog bone over the link bar setup. A lot of the retrofit systems, if you want to do a hydraulic roller in an older like 70s block, or I guess anything pre-94, they have a link bar that connects the two lifters together. Sometimes the link bar fails, and then your lifter spins and you eat up a camshaft. These are solid steel, very hard to break these. So yes, The 94 and up blocks aren't necessarily the strongest, but I mean, this made 500-ish, and I've had no issues with the block itself, only, 2 lean and some cylinders. Anyway, so I'm going to reuse these, because they're still in good condition, and I'm going to reuse the lifters. I'm sure it'll be fine. Famous last words. And I'm going to reuse the camshaft. Yeah, these lifters are actually in really good condition. I wish I had one of those trays. Where you can like plug the lifter in the same spot that it came out of. I'm just gonna have to be smart about it, maybe. I don't know if I have that capability. So let's see, we'll do it like this, as if we're looking at the engine. And we'll just stack them. Whole point is these rollers on these lifters are mated to the lobe on the camshaft. I'm sure you could probably get away with not putting them back in the same spot, but best practice is to put them back where you pulled them off. So that's what we're gonna do. Put them back where I removed them. So I'm gonna do this, get this all pulled apart, then it's the timing cover and the camshaft. I need to get a harmonic balancer puller because I can't seem to find mine. But the one you can rent them at any auto parts store. They're like $25 to rent, so I'm just gonna do that. But anyway, I get to that point, and then I will bring you back in for camshaft removal. All right, timing cover's off. Timing chain's off. Lifters are out. It's time to pull this camshaft. Now there are many different ways to pull a camshaft. And they make tools that thread into the end here, so you can actually have a handle. I tend to use a screwdriver, but this time I'm going to use this Torx bit. But it's just something to support the cam as you ease it out. The idea is to go nice and slow, so you don't want to hit the lobes on the bearing surfaces. Be nice and gentle with it. And just like that, there's the camshaft. All these lobes actually look really good. No real wear. This motor is actually in pretty good shape for what I put it through. Even the bearings aren't completely, the bearings are actually in pretty good shape. If it weren't for the blown piston, plural, I would probably just continue to run this. But alas, it is broke. And so therefore, fancy parts go on stock motor and make 0 power. Alright, I'm going to pull the crank out. Since I'm already here, get this thing completely stripped. That way it's when it's time to go to the machine shop, it's ready. And I don't have to do anything else. Alright, so it's day 2. I don't know why I count days. Anyway, it's the next afternoon-ish. Early afternoon. I got the 408 disassembled the rest of the way yesterday. You saw that. Got it pulled off the stand and tucked back in the corner with the other 2 motors that, who knows what I'll do with those. I actually listed the 302 that I purchased earlier, a few months ago. Posted that up for sale, as well as the 72 351 Windsor that originally came out of Project Ivy. So, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe those will sell. But, now we're on to this heaping massive pile of junk. I'm really hoping that this doesn't bite me in the butt. Anyway, I got the upper plenum off. If you know anything about those, there's one bolt, where is it? That is tucked. Okay. Anyway, it's tucked in between the 2 halves of the plenum, and you got it's a T40 torque driver. I just went to Hobo Freight and got some T-handles. Worked perfect. Got that taken care of. Now I need to pull the accessories off the front of this so I can pick it up and get it on a stand, so I can tear it down the rest of the way. Heads, intake, cam. Should be simple. Nothing simple when it comes to me. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep plugging away on this. Next time you see this engine, it'll be on the stand, and we'll be pulling everything else off of it. Pretty much got everything stripped so far, to the point where I can actually take a look inside this engine to see if I wasted my money or not. Only one way to find out. Start with the valve covers. See if there's a bunch of sludge in the valve train. And then if those look good, then we'll pull the intake. See if there's a bunch of sludge in there. I have no idea if the dude emptied the oil pan. I haven't even bothered to check. And then once I get it completely stripped down to just heads, or not heads, just do the short block, I will probably roll this out into my driveway and pressure wash it because it's disgusting. Found it. Right where I left it. It's actually pretty dang clean. I'll take it. Now to do the other side. Alright, so it's another day. It's a weekday. I gotta work in the morning, so not a whole lot's getting done tonight. What I am gonna do is I pressure washed the engine block, got all the grease and grime and junk off of it, and then I had to pressure wash the driveway because it was bad. But now I'm gonna pull this harmonic balancer that I'm probably gonna have to reuse because mine won't work. Mine is for an internally balanced rotating assembly. This is a 28 ounce, 28 inch, I don't know if it's inch ounce, anyway, 28 ounce externally balanced assembly. So yeah, gonna get this harmonic balancer pulled, timing cover off, and then pull timing chain and cam. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? Oh, also, you're gonna notice that I don't have a beard anymore. Shave that off, because, you know, you can probably guess why. The day job. Anywho, I'm gonna get you set up so you can watch, and we're gonna get this thing off and out of the way so I can pull this camshaft. You're not supposed to use chrome sockets on an impact, but I don't have metric impact sockets, and apparently the end of this harmonic balancer puller is metric. Yeah. There you go. She's off. So this is a 96 only part. Oh boy, I'm gonna fall. It is a crank trigger. Basically what that is there's a magnetic pickup or a magnet here, and as this harmonic balancer, you see these prongs, there's 4 of them, goes past it, the ECU in these trucks would use that as a way to keep track of crank rotation and adjust timing based off of that. Hold those. I said hold them. I want some washers, goodness. Nope. Crunchy. Now the oil pan will be coming off, just not right this second. How is this chain in better condition than the one that came out of my fully built motor? Somebody explain that to me. There she goes. It's a little crusty, that's all it was. Same deal as the last one. Pull the spider, lifters out, retaining plate, pull the cam. You saw me do it on the last engine. I don't think you need to see me do it on this one. All right, so it has been like 2 weeks since, well, for you it's been instant. For me, 2 weeks since I last videoed anything, and since I last touched this motor. Ordered parts, took forever to get here. Realized I forgot to order other parts. Ordered those, and I still forgot to order some things. So I'll be ordering some header gaskets, and probably some odds and ends. Anyway, I'm gonna bring you in, show you where we're at, because things have changed since you last saw it. All right, so as you can see, 2 sections thread together. Got my collet there. I'm gonna have to tighten this up some more so it cinches up onto the bearing. These are different sizes depending on location. And hold the cone into the center. That keeps it concentric. And then smack that end with the hammer. And you watch until it comes out. So that's what we're gonna do. I would be lying to you if I told you I've done this before. I have not. So we're learning together. Hopefully I don't screw this up too much. Because right now, let's call it isn't even. There we go. Looks like it wasn't extending enough. I needed a bigger hammer, I think. One bearing out. Okay, I have no idea where we left off. It's been like a week and a half. Ordered parts, took forever to get here. Forgot parts, had to order more parts. But I think the last section we went over was pulling the old cam bearings out. I got the new ones in. It was a pain in the rear because this particular block, and probably all 351 Windsors that have the casting number F4TE, so it'd be like a 94 and up casting, there's only one set of chamfers for the cam bearings, and that's on the front of the block. So the number 1 cam bearing had to go in from the front. I couldn't even fit the tool in from the back. So hopefully that one's in square. I have not put the camshaft in yet, so who knows? I have gotten to the point now where we're putting the pistons and the crank back in. As you can see, I am using all the original stuff. I highly suggest if you do this, change your main and rod bearings. I did not. They're not horrible. So figure I'm not gonna be racing this thing. This is just like a get the truck on the road kind of deal. But in a normal situation, what you should do, change your rod bearings, change your main bearings, and at least clean and re-ring the pistons. I did none of that. The bottom end is staying exactly the same rings, same bearings. The cam bearings I replaced those because I'm putting my custom ground camshaft from the 408 into this, and I'd rather not destroy that cam. And the main reason for that is it's call it an RV cam, slightly higher performance in stock. and it will work well and is spec'd out for the 185s. The cylinder heads up button on this thing. So we're gonna keep plugging away, get these, get the rest of these pistons in. I had them on the bench in the same configuration as they would be in the block, as if I'm looking at the front of it, so it kind of helps. Another thing you could do is you could mark what cylinder it goes into, just with like a Sharpie. And then another thing is always use assembly lube. Protects the bearing surfaces on initial startup. I will also prime the oiling system. I will show you that tool when we get to that point. So hopefully by the end of the day, this engine is completely together, all the way up to the intake and ready to be swung into the Bronco. And then tomorrow we'll be putting it into the Bronco and hopefully firing it off tomorrow night. I still need to make a tune for it, because going from the 408 down to a 351, there's going to be some fueling, and timing is going to be different as well, because I have a different style pistons in these. Hyper eutectic pistons don't like a lot of timing in them, just due to the material. So I'll have to dial that back, and then I'll also have to cut back on quite a bit of fuel, which might be nice. I might get a couple more, I don't know, might get some decent mileage out of this, I don't know. I'm just hoping it performs well, because I'm going to be really sad when it's pig slow again. So anyway, I'm going to time lapse it, we're going to get this thing done. So when you are installing some pistons, I'm going to point out a couple things that you should probably pay attention to. So if you notice on the crank journal itself, there's a radius right next to where the counterweight is. If you put these pistons in the wrong orientation, this will immediately lock up your motor. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the rod itself, you have a flat side with a very small chamfer, and then you have a full chamfered side. This full chamfered side should always go towards the face of the crank. That gives you the clearance, that gives you the clearance in here for your bearing, so it doesn't sit right up against that, get hot, lock up your motor. So keep that in mind when whether you're installing used pistons like I am, or you are putting in a fresh build and you're putting it together for the first time because you are like me and want to give it a shot and see if you can do it. So keep that in mind. Chamfered side of the rod to the radius side of the crank journal, and same thing goes for your cap as well. There's a chamfered side, there's a non-chamfered side. So you always want to make sure that when you install your cap, the chamfered sides go the same direction. All right, with that, I'm just going to install these last two, and you can watch at normal speed. All right, last piston. I think I showed you guys how to tell which direction your rod needs to go already. There is a chamfer on the crank. The chamfer on the rod goes towards the chamfer on the crank. Put some assembly lube on the bearing surface, just like so. You can be pretty liberal with it. You're not going to hurt anything by putting too much. Just might make a little mess, but I'm not concerned. We're just going to slap this thing home. Gently install the rod down the bore. Piston will come down and sit on the oil rings. Then you're going to grab your spring or your ring compressor. There are multiple different styles. This is the traditional, what you're going to find in most auto parts stores. And it comes with, where did I put it? It comes with a tool to tighten it. Now, there are higher end ring compressors. There are tapered ones that are for specific bores. This one's nice because it doesn't matter what size bore you're using, it will work. There are some drawbacks. Sometimes this doesn't plant super well on the surface of the, or the mating surface for the head, the deck here. And a ring can pop out from underneath, so you gotta be pretty careful about that. So slip the compressor over the rings like so till it makes contact to the deck of the block. Keep positive firm pressure down, tighten it up. It will get to a point where you can't tighten it anymore. That is as tight as I can get it. So now we know that our rings are compressed. They do make dead blow hammers for you to use specifically for installing pistons. I just use the handle side of my rubber mallet, the rubber mallet that has been used for just about everything. So just a little keeping positive pressure down on the deck here so that this ring compressor doesn't come up. And you're just gonna do some light taps onto the piston. Notice how as soon as the piston fully seated, this became free. Set this off to the side. Now I like to flip the block upside down. And I will move this in a way so you can watch. I am holding onto the rod here because this thing has studs and I don't want the studs making contact with the crank. So while holding on to the rod, keeping it oriented properly, get it nice and straight, continue tapping with your mallet or whatever wooden handled instrument you want to use. If you have a dead blow specifically for this, use that. It's the correct tool for the job. So just some light taps. Watch your fingers. Don't pinch them in anything, but also make sure that you're not hitting the crank journal with any sharp edges. Fully seated. And now to install the cap. So again, more assembly lube. Get that nice and coated. Now again, you have a chamfered side and you have a flat side. The flat side always meets with the other rod. The chamfered side always goes towards the crank. So take that, slide it over nice and gently, get it to seat almost all the way, and then put your nuts back on. I have not torqued any of these down. They get torqued to 45 pounds, and that is foot pounds, not inch pounds, just in case you grab the wrong torque wrench. It is foot pounds. What I like to do is I will snug these down until it is completely seated. A little calibrated elbow action, probably 20 foot-pounds there. Nothing too crazy, because I will torque it. And then I like to take another ratchet on the crank snout here, and I like to rotate it, make sure everything moves freely. And as you can see, moves pretty freely. Now to torque these down, I gotta get a torque wrench set up here. So I will torque these down. Next time you see me, we will be installing the oil pump, the pickup, and the pan. These are all torqued down. Everything still moves pretty freely. I'll even show you again. Everything moves pretty good. Doesn't take a whole lot of torque to get this thing to move. Feels nice and tight, but not super tight. Now, this is your drive for your oil pump. This is what goes to the bottom of your distributor, and then your distributor will drive your oil pump. So there is a small snap washer, lock washer looking thing on this thing. You can see that. This goes down, or I guess technically up, towards where your distributor would go. And then I am reusing the oil pump for the 408 because I know it is good and I do not know anything about this particular motor. So I would prefer to use a pump that I know functions. So line your drive shaft up. Why don't you want to go? Didn't want to see it all the way. Here we go. Maybe it'll hold itself. Nope. Oh, there we go. All right, we are fully seated. These are ARP fasteners. If it really matters. Just need to make sure these get snugged down pretty good. I want to say it's like 25 or 30. I'm going to do German torque. Gluten tight. Oh. All right. There's one thing I didn't purchase was the pickup tube gasket. So I'm gonna have to make one, which is fine. And you guys can do the same. Not that the gasket's super expensive, it's like a couple bucks. But set that down. I'm gonna make the gasket real quick and we'll install this. So heads are installed, they're torqued down. I'm using ARP studs, the same studs that were actually in the 408, just reusing them. Probably frowned upon, but this thing's gonna be like 9.2 to 1 compression, so I'm not really worried about it. Installing the rocker arms. So these are Scorpion stud mount rockers. This is actually a really good company. I ran these in the Bronco for years. I've had zero issues with valve train stability, aside from not enough spring rate. Anyway, these are what is considered a stud mount rocker. The stock rockers are what's called a pedestal mount rocker. With a stud mount rocker, you need to use what's called a guide plate. This is what controls the alignment of the roller tip to the stem of the valve. If you are going to be using a guide plate, you need to use a set of hardened push rods. These are a set of Comp Cam's Magnum push rods. They are hardened. They are a specific length for this application. You will have to measure yours. Now, to set your alignment on your roller tip, you loosen the stud, nice and loose, and you will adjust how the guide plate aligns with the lifter or the push rod bore. If you have it too far one way, your valve tip barely rides on the roller, or if at all. If you don't do this correctly, you will destroy your rockers. So the idea is to get it as centered as you can, and there will be a little bit of back and forth play. That is fine, because there is space between the push rod and the guide plate. So you get it centered so the travel is centered left and right, and then you lock the stud back down. Takes a couple test tries. I've gone through and got these as close as I can get them. These are the last two I got to do. So I'm going to do these, and then I will walk you through how to set the preload on the push rods, or the rockers, lifters, the valve train, preload on the valve train. All right. Got all my rockers, the rocker tips aligned, everything's locked down when it comes to the studs. Now we are going to set the preload on the lifters. So the pattern you go with is EOIC, exhaust opening, intake closing. So when the exhaust is opening, you set the preload on the intake. When the intake is closing, you set the preload on the exhaust. So the way you know which rocker is which, easiest way is follow your exhaust ports, because they're usually a straight line. Your intake kind of kicks off. So this is my intake valve, this is my exhaust valve. I am going to get them down till they're touching, and then I'm going to rotate the engine until I get, okay, give me a second. There we go. All right, so EOIC, I'm looking for exhaust opening, which should be next right here. Come on. I'm tightening the bolt. There we go. So my exhaust valve just started to move into the opening position. So now I will adjust my intake valve. So the way you do this is, you see how I have vertical movement in the push rod right now? I'm going to slowly bring this down until the vertical movement goes away. Still got a little bit. All right, vertical movement is gone. Now the rule of thumb, if I recall, 1/2 turn. And then lock it down with the, what do you call it, the poly lock. Now my poly lock is touching. Now I'm going to go with both the wrench and the poly lock. There you go. That is now locked solid. Now I'm going to rotate the engine again until I get intake closing. So my exhaust is now closing. See, my intake rocker is now opening up. As soon as that starts coming down, I will do my exhaust. So same deal. Got vertical movement, bring it down until I no longer have vertical movement. And and then 1/2 turn. My poly lock down and lock it in place. So these two valves are now, or these two rockers are now adjusted. Repeat it. You can go by the firing order. I just go down each side because why not? It doesn't take that much to rotate the engine around. So that is how you adjust your rockers. I'm gonna finish this up, get the intake on, start reassembling everything else, and the next time you'll see me, we'll be swinging this into the Bronco. All right, so here's the deal. We got the engine is in place, bell housing bolts, starter, and the torque converter bolts are all installed. Exhaust headers are installed as well. You notice I have a drill with a makeshift tool. This is so you can prime your oiling system. This was a distributor at one point in its life. I just stripped it down to just the shaft. I can chuck it in a drill, index it into the, if I can do this one-handed, into the, oh come on, where are you at? I cannot see. There we go. Index it into the pump drive shaft, and then I can pull the trigger. Remind you, 351 Windsors, the distributor goes counterclockwise, so you need to rotate this counterclockwise in order to pump oil. But this allows me to prime the oiling system without cranking the engine over. You don't necessarily have to do this because I did put assembly lube on everything, but I just prefer to make sure I have oil pressure. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to set you up inside the cab where you can see the oil pressure gauge, and I'm going to pull the trigger and you're going to tell me if I have oil pressure. Alright, I got you set up. You keep an eye on that gauge and let me know if I have oil pressure. I say that that's a success. I think my drill's dying now. Started smoking. So now that we have verified the pump is functioning properly, pull this out, set this off to the side. Now, as you can see, I have my timing pointer marked at 10 degrees before top dead center. I can install the distributor and get it oriented properly and start doing all the accessories. This is the fun part, all the little stuff that takes forever. Wish me luck. Everything is installed. I put some coolant in the radiator. Gotta hook up the laptop real quick and adjust the timing and the target fuel, as well as a couple other little parameters for the sniper unit, and then it's turn the key and pray it runs. Alright, it is the next day. Put a new battery terminal in, had the battery checked, supposedly it passed, so I have everything hooked back up. Let's see if she starts. I would guess no. Play with the distributor. Alright, I'm gonna set the timing. Alright, time for a test drive. weeks now since you last saw me. Been driving the truck on a daily basis to and from work. Runs pretty good, gets horrible mileage. I think last week I calculated it all out and it was like 8 or 9 miles to the gallon. So made some adjustments to the tune, pulled some fuel out, adjusted some timing and cruise, but other than that, I guess we'll just have to see. I know this video is super long. There was a lot of stuff going on. I tried to give you guys some tips and tricks and some information that might be useful if you find yourself in a similar situation. Hopefully you can find that as beneficial. If not, I'm sorry. I guess we can't all be winners. Anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking it out. And if you did like the video or you like content like this, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. These, push the videos in my channel on the YouTube algorithm. But another thing that I did while we weren't on camera was I adjusted the exhaust and put it all the way out in the back, so it's a little bit quieter in the cab. I can actually hear myself think, which is nice. Although I did enjoy the rowdy exhaust that was on it. But this will be better for longer road trips. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you don't think. And with that, I will see you guys next time.